nwpnetwork.com. And what we do is that we support small businesses with a particular focus on African women and young people. So we're very excited to be collaborating with the New York City Business Solutions Center today. The Business Solutions Center is a division of the New York City Department of Small Business Services, and our goal really is to help businesses in New York City anywhere. We have a center in Bronx, Queens, Brooklyn, Staten Island, really in all the boroughs. And it's to help entrepreneurs start, grow, and develop their businesses. All the services are free and at no cost to you. So we hope you take advantage of the services. If you notice on your chairs, we have a calendar. So it includes your upcoming classes and the different courses that we provide. So I just wanted to put that in there before we continue. We also offer consultations as well. So a couple of my colleagues are in the audience. So feel free to get in touch with us at your convenience. The person on my left, Ani, is founder of Innovative Magazine and Ibram LLC. Elaine is no stranger to the nonprofit world. After the devastating earthquake in Haiti on January 12, 2010, Marie Elaine was compelled to take action. In May of that year, she resigned from her position at American Express to launch Community to Community, C2C, a nonprofit service organization dedicated to creating self-sufficient communities by working with the community. Orobosa is an experienced public speaker who believes that the power of effective change lies within each individual. Welcome, Orobosa, and thank you very much for joining us. Co-founder of MUI, the PR company. Her company strategically advises clients on how to be successful within their distinct markets. Welcome, Genevieve. Thank you very much for joining us.
When you're growing in corporate America, you get to a point in corporate America where you're like, okay, I've done this, I've accomplished this, I've increased the portfolio by X. So what next? You get to a point where you don't move for a couple of years. I'm senior vice president of this, I've been that, and I wanted to give back to my community. So I actually started engaging and talking to people and started an organization that helped people with XYZ. So I was like, wait a minute. I go to these events, people always ask me, even though I'm in residential mortgages, people always ask me about commercial transactions. Or they ask me, okay, if I have this, what can I do with it? If I want to start a nonprofit, what do I do with this? When you're in the financial sector, you tend to pretty much cover the bases of what you know. So even though you're in residential financing, you know commercial financing. You know the basics. You know how to set up businesses. You know what it takes for you to set up your businesses and how you want to set it up. So when I started to get those questions when I went to all these different events, I said, wow, okay, you know what? I need to open up something that allows me to educate the community. I can give back to my community that way. So I already knew the basics of it is always making sure that everyone understands the language of what type of business do I set up? What monies do I need? I knew those answers, and I knew the best way to do that was to actually create events that actually could answer those questions for people. So that's how I got started. But it's also based on the fact that I was always interested in technology as well. So I said, let me go to a sector that's technology-based, because technology runs the world. So let me educate them in business with different applications that can help them be successful.
Thinking about starting new businesses, and when I first moved to New York, I was in debt myself, and a friend had given me a book that I let sit around for like 2 years, and I should have read it. And finally, I found the time to do it, and literally I was out of debt in 9 months. And this was student loans, this was credit cards, this was the whole nine. And interesting, I know, I was just as surprised as you are. I will share that. Okay. So no, literally, it's funny, God has a wonderful sense of humor, right? So when I started working at American Express, the same person had invited me to come to fellowship, and I was like, I don't have time for that, I have plans, I got things I got to do. And then, broke later, because sometimes you got to get there before the light goes off. And the book is actually called God's Plans for Your Finances. That's the literal name of the book. So I used that in the Financial Freedom Workshop, and several of my students, are debt-free even today. And so my plan in 2009, I remember, I had saved up $40,000. I was ready to leave my job. I was going to do it full time. I was going to take 6 months off to go to sleep. And then I was going to just start my business. So that was December 2009. January 12, 2010, all those plans changed because the earthquake happened. And again, God has a great sense of humor because I had saved that money up for myself to do things that I planned to do. But thank God I had it, because once I left the job that May of that same year, that's what I had to live off of. We went to Haiti that August, specifically in my father's hometown, because I wanted to be in a place where we could, where we knew people and where we could actually start and manage what we were trying to do, as opposed to just show up like, hi, we're here to help. And I was grateful. My father used to say that you should live your life right for your children, not for yourself. And I was grateful for that, because when I did get into town, I hadn't been home in 16 years. But people helped me, because they were like, Gia's daughter, Marie-Hélène, is here. We have to help her. And I didn't even know half the people who helped me. So I was grateful for that. So we came back in August, and literally it was after meeting the group, the two communities we're currently working with, it just changed my life, it changed my mind. I found my calling, I was clear on what I was supposed to be doing, and I came back here, and as a result of that, my background is in public relations and business management. These folks needed engineers, doctors, architects. I have no skill in this area. So I went to every meeting. Every time I heard something about Haiti, I was there. I was on the website till my eyes were bleeding, trying to find information. And I entered into an arena. I know more about seismic activity now than probably everybody in this room. Okay? And the people I met when I was returning, I had money to pay for their tickets because I couldn't afford them, right? But we took care of their room and board, etc. So since then, I would say, you asked a good question, like, I don't know that I was planning to do that, right? But I think that my 7 years at American Express prepared me to do that. So I didn't know that at the time, but where I lived, where I went to church, where I was working 7 years to the day, and then the earth moved, I moved, and I went. And so now here it is, fast forward to 4 years that we have a 501c3 nonprofit service organization. There's 20 people in the organization who are dedicated to seeing this community become self-sufficient. And I will tell you that the thing that is most poignant for me is that, you may not be aware of this, but Haiti has one nonprofit for every 1,000 people. So you can imagine in a country of 10 million people, how many nonprofits that is. So why is the country not in a better position? That's the question that you have to ask. That's the question I ask. And so the work that we're doing in community to community is paradigm shifting that. Our goal is that the community we're working with will not need us, that they will work us out of a job, that they will become self-sufficient and not need us anymore, that we should be the last nonprofit that they deal with. So this is the work that we're engaging in. So I've never looked back, I never regret it. There were days I had to eat peanut butter for a lot of days, but there's not a day I wake up and wish I was back in my cube. I currently actually came back to the workforce now that the organization is really starting to get its legs, and I'm here during the day, taking all of what I've learned from the Financial Freedom Workshop, from Amex, from starting community to community, to bring it to the folks to come through the NYC Business Solutions Center.
I went to Nigeria with my dad right out of college, and he was just like, what are you going to do with your life? And I was like, I don't know. I'm not sure. He's like, do you want to get a job? I was like, no, I like you supporting me. And he was like, no, you can't live like that. You have to find something. And he gave me a time limit. He said, if you don't find a job within 6 months after graduating, you got to move out. I was like, whoa, okay, you're serious. And then a little bit, like a month later, he said, well, I'm going to Nigeria and I'm going to stay in Nigeria for about a year. So me trying to get out of paying New York City rent, I said, oh, let me go to Nigeria with you. It's easy there. I've been to Nigeria. well taken care of. He's still going to support me, he doesn't know. And he actually got involved into politics. And during his journey in politics, it allowed me to learn more about the Nigerian culture. When I started learning about the Nigerian culture, I was so shocked because, you know, being a first generation Nigerian, I was like, yeah, my dad's Nigerian. I know everything about Nigerian culture until I actually was on the ground. And one of the biggest challenges we had during the campaign is that youth were afraid to come out and vote. They believed that their vote didn't have a matter, they didn't have a voice. And I said, well, I want to do something. You know, I have to make my time here useful. You know, I started thinking, like, how am I going to get involved? So my dad said, well, you find something to do in Nigeria during the campaign trail, and I can help you through it. I'll help you develop the vision. So I gathered a group of young boys. They were interested in like playing soccer. I went up to them and said, hey, you guys want to rally in the campaign? Because we needed like campaign supporters. They're like, no, the campaign for what? Vote for what? It doesn't matter. Like, don't waste your time. Don't waste your time. I was like, no, I'm the only one living like, coming to Nigeria doing American politics. I was like, yeah, vote, vote, vote. You have to have your voice. They said no. So then I said, okay, well, listen, you guys love soccer so much, and they didn't really have a field. If you help me help my dad win the election, I will help you get a soccer field. So once I said that, everybody was like, oh, yes, let's do this. Let's do it. So during the campaign trail, I rallied them together, 6 o'clock in the morning. We were out rallying hot water. Misha had water, food, because you have to feed them. You know, no one's doing anything for free. But so Misha had the food, rice, everything ready. During the end of the election trail, my dad actually didn't win. And I felt like, wow, you know, it was a big disappointment. But I said, I promised these young youth that I would give them a soccer field. So I worked hard, I went to rally, I asked friends, neighbors, everybody in the community to just donate something to give them the soccer field that I promised. When I saw their faces of just having something so small as a soccer field to play, it really allowed me to realize, oh wow, I truly believe in youth advocacy and the power of leadership. Like, just me, I was able, and they were all boys. There was like no females. So usually in Nigeria, they're like, oh, what is this girl running around with all these boys? But it wasn't in that way. They really just believed and trusted in me that I gave them a promise and I followed through on my promise. So when I came back to New York, I did find a job because my dad wasn't playing that, but I realized that I really liked being in that arena, working with youth. And I was looking for opportunities to kind of branch out. So like my fellow panelists, I went to events, parties, anything African related, Nigerian related, I went to. And then I came across the United Nations Association for Young Professionals. What I loved about the organization that it wasn't only confined to people who were of Nigerian descent. It actually allowed me to meet with other people from other African countries. So I joined their African Affairs Committee. I worked as their VP for community outreach for about 2 years, and then our director decided he wanted to step down. So I felt like this was the perfect opportunity to kind of exercise my leadership skills and kind of do programming in New York that I wanted to see. Because after I got on the board, I was like, oh man, we're just doing happy hours? I don't want to just do happy hours. No, young professionals like happy hours. And so I decided to focus on doing content-driven programming. And because we're a UN affiliate organization, I wanted to ensure that our impact was reflective of the UN ideals. So since then, I have been working with the organization. Although I have managed the budget, I have to get people to donate. I wake up and I focus on the emails that are coming in. I have to respond. I have to make sure the marketing is right. So for me, I feel like this is my organization within a larger realm. And since then, I've been the director for a year, and I truly enjoy it. And if anyone's interested, you can definitely ask me for questions later on membership. But thank you.
The idea for MUIPR was kind of born years before it was actually created. I was sort of helping out here and there, and really sort of through events, through social media, and then once the traditional piece of the PR business, pillar came about, it was a logical next step. It made sense to sort of create a business around it and call it something. And that was a challenge at that point, figuring out what exactly to call it. But eventually came that the name MUIPR. Came about because I realized the full name, it's French for Mon Utopie Idéale, and it's my ideal utopia. In college I studied biology and sociology, and I have this whole ideology of society and how society should be. And I've realized that the people who are coming to me and asking me to help them, to help pitch them or to help support them, these are the people that, they have an ideal state in their mind for how their product should work or how their services should be rendered. And so it is my job then to help them bring that to fruition. So hence the name MUIPR, and Mon Utopie Idéale is so long to say, so it's sort of, we call it MUIPR for short, but that's essentially how I started. And of course I branched into other, there are other sort of extensions of the business now that we're piloting, but essentially I started out not really, I kind of got to the work that I'm doing now, not really the way that I think the other ladies on here actually got to it. But at the end of the day, the one thing I think that connects all of us is the fact that there was a need to sort of make a difference, and that's what I think what's really even fueling my desire until today.
So I would like to ask the tough questions. We don't have too much time, but for many of you who are interested in starting your business and keeping your job, the reality for most people, especially a lot of people that we work with and do a lot of consultation with, is that you have bills. The bills don't stop coming in. So you need to keep your job. You have mortgage, you have rent, you have kids, whatever it is. And there's some people that would argue that, there's the question of, are you a real entrepreneur if you're still working your day job? Because entrepreneurship really is about risk, right? It's about quitting and just going for it, making the mistakes, making the error, and hopefully hitting the jackpot. Luck happens. So how do you respond to that? And just very briefly, because I know we don't have too much time left.
3 words. Have a plan. This is not, everybody's grown in here, right? So it's not, I hate my job, I want to leave. The truth is, sometimes you have to do what you have to do until you can do what you want to do. That's the truth, right? So even when I was planning, not knowing I was about to start a nonprofit organization, I had $40,000, saved in the bank. Now mind you, I thought that was a lot of money. Turned out it wasn't. Okay? But for what I was planning to do for the Financial Freedom Workshop, I literally budgeted out that I needed X amount of money per month. So that meant that all of my overhead was going to be covered for 12 months. That was done. So that has to be socked away. And another word that I think folks don't want to talk about is sacrifice. What does it cost to do this? Okay, because it is the constant commercials where they're charging people $6.99, which is $700, but to listen to Donald Trump or something for 15 minutes, right? And people are paying this money, right? And I'm not downing him because they don't give him enough time to tell the truth, which is that he has gone bankrupt like 5, 6, 7 times. And if you spend time with him, he'll tell you that. Because this, what we've chosen, involves failure. But truthfully, the failure is not in falling, it's just not in getting back up. If you choose tonight that what you decide to do is that you will always try, you'll be fine. It's that we're afraid to try and fail. If that's the case, you shouldn't be an entrepreneur. It's not going to work. Because you're going to try things that are just going to be complete and utter mistakes. And other things you're going to do that are going to be awesome. But this plan of what would it take for me to do this? That's if you're a single individual. If you are married in a relationship, whatever else, everyone in your circle needs to know what it is you're trying to do so that they can support you. When I first moved here and I was on this mission to be debt-free, because I was balling with my friends who lived here, I was like, Wednesday was hump day, we were at the club, Thursday, we were somewhere Friday. And these were folks dropping $60, $100 on like 2 hors d'oeuvres and a drink. I'm like, so that was cute for like 5 minutes. Then I was like, I can't hang out with y'all anymore. Right? And then they were just like, no, you should do that and we'll pay for you. But then that gets tired. What I said was, I'm about to go underground. I have student loans, I have credit cards, I have doctor bills, so you're not gonna see me anymore. So that was it. 9 months later, I was debt free. So this is what it tangible. You need a tangible plan for how you're going to do this. It is doable. It is not complicated. It is complex. A complex system is actually peace. Complication is chaos. You need a plan. Everything that Mary said, you have these free services that are offered here. They're offered at a myriad of different places. Take the opportunity to take all these courses in and cut yourself some slack. At the end of the day, you're not going to take the course on Monday and then have it all together by Friday. Have a plan and make sure that your plan is actually a reed and not cedar. If your plan can't bend, you're going to be in trouble too. So I'll say it again. Have a plan.
So, for example, you've done a great job promoting yourself, promoting your brand, and you get a client who is paying big bucks, and they're like, I want this done within this specific amount of time. And you have your 9 to 5. How do you manage your time?
And I will have to admit, it's not a bed of roses at all. I mean, I've worked with some of the women on this panel, and they know sometimes we don't sleep. And you have to be, if you're wired that way, then you'll be able to net out where you need to net out. But if you can't, then, I mean, there are other alternatives. I've been in a situation before where I knew I had a deadline for a particular event for a client. I took time off of work, because I have vacation time, or I have sick time. So I'll call out sick, or I'll take, it's the truth. I'm not gonna.
Your boss is not here.
I know my boss. No, but you have to be smart about it. Ultimately, I mean, the reason why you're stepping out is because you want to be your own boss, right? And so I think that as long as you're playing within the confines of, what you're allowed, right, at work, then I think it's possible.
I just have one question I'm so curious about. I know Ijoma and Marie had touched on it a little bit. At which point in your business growth and development do you plan to quit your job? Is it a plan, or are you just planning to keep doing both?
So when I first moved here, my goal was to blow up and make $1 million, right? What I understand now, and by show of hands, where you're working now, however much money that you're making, if you could make that same amount in your business, you would leave, right? So that's a realistic goal, right? So if you're bringing home, I don't know, $2,000, gross, your paycheck is $1,800 over 2 weeks, that is a realistic goal. So the question is, if you're selling something, if you're a consultant, whatever it is, how many of this do I need to sell to make that amount of money? How many clients do I need to make this amount of money? That is a realistic goal, because after that, you can build on that. I used to think in my mind, like, I'm trying to make $10,000 a month. If I can make what I'm making now for myself, I can leave the job, right? And the sacrifices they were talking about, and I like what you said about investment. You must now start thinking like the boss. You have to start now, because think about it this way. Your boss is thinking about every red cent that they're paying for, every equipment, everything else in the office. So they're already thinking of investment. Anytime, and there's nothing wrong with thinking this. If I'm going to spend time with you, what is that going to result in? If I'm not going to work today, what is that going to result in? You need to know that, because otherwise you're just going to be, floating in the wind. Like whatever happens. And like she said, sometimes you have to say, I'm not ready to take this account. I'm not ready to take this client. Or it's, I got to call 3 friends in to get this thing done. You must start thinking like the boss today, not when you transfer over. Because right now you're thinking like an employee. And it's going to take some time to transition out of that. And truth be told, and I think you all agree, the boss never stops thinking. Because there's always something to be thinking about. right? As an employee, it's 5 o'clock and I'm out. I'm not thinking about this place, I'm gone. The boss doesn't do that. The boss is already thinking about next week and the week after that, and are we meeting numbers for this quarter? Do I have enough money to do this? And what if this person quits? And That's what the boss is doing. And the boss means I'm accountable. The boss means I'm the one, the buck stops here. If something happens and it doesn't work out, it's here. So these are the things that you start thinking about, and this will help you to get this manageable plan. As far as managing your time as well, if you do not have a system for that, you need to figure out what that is. Some of the things that were set up here, you need to know if you're a night owl or if you're a crack of dawn person. I will come to work at 6 o'clock, even though the clock doesn't start till 9, because from 6 to 3, I can get my emails out, talk to the team in Haiti, take care of stuff, send emails out, and then I can focus. I had to learn how to do that. And then out here, then I can go home for maybe 2 hours. What you don't want to become is a workaholic, not as the employee and not as the boss. Work-life balance is so important. You don't want to get to where you're trying to go and be so tired and so bitter and so angry and so toxic that you can't even enjoy the fruit of this labor and all this sacrifice and investment that you made. So know yourself. Take whatever assessment test you got to take to figure out. If you're a morning person, rock that. If you're a night person, rock that. If you're the type of person who loves paper and you need to have a notebook that has everything in it, do that. God knows I'm trying to be paperless because I'm about done. So I have a to-do that's in my phone, that's in my iPad, and they sync together. Everything is there, so I don't have to worry. I'll tell people, stop talking for a second, I need to put this in my to-do, because if I don't, it's not happening. Find out what your system is. Like she said, there isn't any one that works for everybody. You might have to read 3 books, take a little piece out of here and there, and make that to be your system. And always make sure you can tweak it until you can manage that. This is what we're learning while we're at the job. You're on the job training right now. Don't despise small beginnings, wherever it is that you are. And if you're working in a place that actually is your area of interest, you are getting paid to learn. So suck it up like a sponge, right? And then take that information and flip it, because these people that you're talking to are your future clients, technically. So start thinking like the boss and start managing your time like the boss now.
And I like what Marie said in terms of ownership. You just have to own your choices. So what choices do you want to make? Do you want to, go with the family plan of, getting married and having your kids and working the 9 to 5, or do you, start your business, have your kid, whatever it is, you have to own your choices. And I think, it's just like you have to choose a major in college. You can't choose every major. You can't be in sociology and engineering. You have to pick one thing, and then you're awarded a degree. And so the fact that you've chosen engineering as your field of choice, or field of expertise, you can also do the same in terms of personal choices as well. That's how I see it.
I'm a firm believer in what's meant for you will be for you. So even if you have a relationship and you have a kid, if you're meant to be in this world to make a difference in construction, to be the first female to do a construction plan that no one has never seen before, it's going to happen for you. But it all happens when you know what you want. You are with someone who supports your dream, because that too, not having support can deter you from moving forward. So when you have a support system who's backing you, and your partner, that's the person you lay with every night that believes in you, and you let them know that, babe, that's what you want to do, that's nice, I can help you, but this is my dream and this is where I want. Because if you don't find, or if you don't get that satisfaction, you'll never if you never engage in what you want to do, you'll never be satisfied.
I'm 25 years old and I'm currently a construction estimator. So I went to school, I did engineering, and I did that sacrifice so I could get a good job. And what I'm finding now is that, while I was in school, I got a lot of support from my family to go to school. But once I got out of school and I got a job, I've been getting a lot of criticism to start a family. When we talk about sacrifice as women, how do we strategically plan to be the CEO, to be get the 9 to 5, and then have kids and raise a family? I'm currently in a relationship, and my boyfriend is also an entrepreneur. And I found myself working his business instead of my own. And you know, how do you snap yourself out of that and prioritize yourself when you're in a relationship and as a woman, you're supposed to submit to your husband, your man, your partner, you know, in support of their dreams, but then you sacrifice yours. You know, I don't know how many of you guys have children, and I don't know what strategic plans you guys have, but I'd be interested to know how, you know, how you've been able to manage being successful, not just in terms of money and power, but when it comes to building a family and a legacy.
You're asking yourself that question now because obviously, in my opinion, based on what you've stated, you're wanting to go back into your own focus. You can still be of assistance to someone without giving up your own, I call it a passion. You have a burning desire to accomplish something. Don't let it die. Within what you're doing, you have to assess what you can or can't do and then communicate that with your partner. And that's the only way it's going to work. Otherwise, if you're not communicating, saying, look, I have this passion, I want to get it done, but I'm helping you. How can we do this so that it's to the betterment of the both of us? So if you don't do that and it just dies inside of you, there'll always be this lingering regret that you'll never get rid of. So I believe that one's just about communication. In terms of having kids, I don't have any kids, but I plan on it, period. I know that the things that I'm doing now, I will not be able to do it. But you know what? There's words that this lady said right here, have a plan.
This is quick. My name is Corliss Hanson, and I was wondering if you could offer some suggestions about finding networking groups, finding resources like various kinds of apps that you mentioned or books, for people to talk to in the groups or individuals who have had experiences. I guess it's all along the lines of networking and getting information.
Just so you guys know, there's an app that actually puts all of your calendars into one, so that if you have a specific thing that you're trying to do and it's on another calendar, it merges it together to let you know that, hey, you've got this, that's for your 9 to 5. Hey, you've got this, that's for your personal engagement. Also, I use social media tools, Hootsuite, Rignite, whatever it is that you choose. I use that because I have different platforms. I have EBOM LLC, which was more the event side. I have Innovative, which was the technology side. So I had to have a platform that allowed me to be able to schedule out these social media to Facebook, to Twitter, to Instagram, to wherever I wanted to. And you know what? If I sit down and focus and not try to multitask and do 20 things at one time, focus, work on my scheduling, I could actually schedule out a week's worth of tweets or Facebook postings in less than an hour if I actually focus and said, let me do that and get that done. So that's one thing. The other thing I did was I partnered. You're a fool if you don't partner. I'm gonna tell you that right now. Because you're not a one-man show. You're not going to be able to do everything. Everything is not all about what you can accomplish. You need to partner, but make sure you write out that contract.
Thank you all so much. Thank you, everyone.